You train hard, you eat clean, you look athletic in clothes. But when you check the mirror, there is no definition, no abs, no separation. Just a smooth, soft look that does not match the effort you are putting in. This is not about motivation. This is about three variables most people completely overlook. Here is what is actually blocking your definition and what to do about it. The first and most obvious culprit is body fat percentage, but not in the way most people think. You can be at a healthy weight, have solid muscle mass, and still look undefined because you are sitting just above the threshold where muscle separation becomes visible. For men, abs and clear muscle definition typically begin to appear between 10 and 15% body fat. For women, it is between 16 and 20%. Those ranges are not arbitrary. They represent the point where subcutaneous fat, the layer of fat directly beneath your skin, becomes thin enough to reveal the muscle underneath. Here is the part that frustrates people. You can drop from 20% to 18% body fat and see almost no visual change. Then you hit 15% and suddenly everything pops. The difference between looking fit and looking defined is often just 3 to 5 percentage points. But those final percentage points are disproportionately harder to lose than the first 10 or 15. Your body defends that last layer of fat aggressively. Hunger increases, energy drops, metabolic adaptation kicks in. This is why people can train consistently for months, see progress on the scale, and still feel like they look the same in the mirror. And the threshold is not universal. Two people at 15% body fat can look completely different based on where their body stores fat. Some people store more fat on their lower abs and obliques. Others store it on their thighs or lower back. If your genetics favor abdominal fat storage, you will need to push closer to 12% to see the same AB definition that someone else might see at 15%. Fat distribution is not something you can train around. You can build the muscle. You cannot dictate where the fat comes off. This is determined by your genetics, your sex, and your hormonal profile. Men tend to store more fat in the abdominal region. Women tend to store more in the hips, thighs, and lower body. And as you age, fat distribution shifts, often toward the midsection for both sexes. These are not things you control through exercise selection or meal timing. They are biological realities. Now here is the variable people almost never consider, and it changes everything on a day-to-day basis. Water retention, specifically intramuscular water and glycogen-bound water. Glycogen is stored carbohydrate in your muscles and liver, and for every gram of glycogen your body stores, it binds 3 to 4 grams of water. This is not theory. This has been measured in controlled studies using muscle biopsies. When you eat a carbohydrate-heavy meal, your glycogen stores refill and water follows. Your muscles can hold several hundred grams of glycogen. Some estimates suggest an average adult male can store 400 to 600 grams of glycogen across muscle tissue and the liver. That means you can gain 2 to 4 pounds of water weight in a single day without gaining an ounce of fat. And this fluctuation is completely normal. It is not fat gain. It is not bloating in the traditional sense. It is your body doing exactly what it is designed to do, storing fuel. This is why bodybuilders and physique competitors manipulate carbohydrate and water intake in the final days before a show. They deplete glycogen through training and low-carb eating, then strategically refill it while controlling sodium and water to create a tighter, more defined look. You are not doing that. You are eating normally. And normal eating means your muscles are holding glycogen and water, which is good for performance and recovery, but it blunts definition. If you have ever noticed that you look leaner in the morning after fasting overnight, or after a few days of lower carbohydrate intake, this is why. You have not lost fat. You have shed glycogen and water. The muscle is the same. The fat is the same. But the appearance has changed. Sodium also plays a role. High sodium intake causes your body to retain extracellular water, water outside the muscle cells between tissues, which creates a softer, bloated look. This is temporary. But if you are consistently eating processed foods with high sodium content, you are walking around with a baseline level of water retention that obscures your muscle definition. Reducing sodium does not burn fat. It just removes the fluid layer that is masking the shape underneath. This is one reason why physique athletes and bodybuilders reduce sodium in the final days before competition or photo shoots, not to lose fat, but to shed the extracellular water that blurs muscle detail. For most people training recreationally, this level of manipulation is unnecessary. But understanding the principle helps explain why your definition can vary significantly from day to day based on what you ate the night before. Then there is the third factor, and this one is invisible until you address it: muscle size. You can be lean enough to see definition, but if the muscle itself is underdeveloped, there is nothing to define. Abs are muscles, shoulders are muscles. If those muscles are small, low body fat will just make you look thin, not defined. This is the paradox people run into when they focus exclusively on fat loss without prioritizing muscle growth. They lose weight, they get lighter, but they never develop the hard, separated look they are chasing because the underlying structure is not built. The solution is not more cardio. The solution is progressive resistance training with enough volume and intensity to actually stimulate hypertrophy. If you have been training the same weights, the same reps, the same exercises for months, your muscles have no reason to grow. And without growth, definition is limited. Think of it this way: a larger muscle pushes through subcutaneous fat more effectively than a smaller one. Two people at the same body fat percentage can look drastically different if one has more muscle mass. The person with more muscle will look harder and more defined, even though the fat layer is identical. This is why bodybuilders can look incredibly defined at body fat percentages that would leave an untrained person looking soft. The muscle itself creates the shape. The low body fat reveals it. But without the muscle, low body fat just makes you look flat and small, not defined and athletic. So if you look fit but not defined, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Am I actually lean enough? Or am I 3 to 5 percentage points away from the threshold where separation becomes visible? 2. Am I holding water from high sodium or elevated glycogen stores that is blurring my lines? And 3. Have I built enough muscle to create definition in the first place? You do not need to do all 3 perfectly. The reality is that most people who look fit but not defined are within striking distance of their goal. They are not starting from zero. They have built a base, they train consistently, they eat reasonably well. But they are stuck in the middle ground where none of the 3 variables are dialed in tightly enough to produce the look they want. But you do need to address all 3 variables if you want the look you are chasing. Lower body fat progressively, manage water and sodium strategically, and build the muscle through consistent, progressive overload. That is the framework, not hype, not shortcuts, just the variables that determine whether you look fit or whether you look defined. Subscribe for more breakdowns that skip the surface level advice and go straight to what actually moves the needle.